Recorded January 8th, 2026. Good afternoon, Franklin. How are you?
Good. I think you sent me to the back though.
Well, I don't know what happened. I'm trying to get it right, man. There you go. That's not it. That's not it. There we go. How about that?
There we go. That's
Yeah.
all right. You can just show your
Well,
Christmas
I just
present.
had to hide the vertical. That's all. And now it seems to be truncated a little bit. I got them both there. I don't know what happened. It says solo
All good.
layout. But no, this works. How was your New Year's? How was
You know,
your
I
yeah? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We haven't had a show. How was your Christmas and New Year's? There you go.
just good, just fine. How about
Yeah,
you? I know you were traveling. I didn't do anything, so you're the one that's got all like excitement, not me.
I don't know about all exciting. I I did travel. I took some time off and I really tried to rest. And I succeeded. I think I was more physically tired, just down to the molecular level that I thought I was. I never slept so much. I was sleeping 8.5 hours, a day, and sleep is addictive. The more you get it, the more you want it.
Now you're gonna have to start going to naps too. Can't forget the
I
naps.
me start. I generally try to take a nap every Wednesday or so and do it. If nothing else, just to get away. There's a quiet room in my house that there is no tech, no nothing. Just I can shut the door and chill. But no, I travel. You're right. I give you a quick story about my escapades here. To our listeners, Happy New Year! Welcome to 2026. This is the first episode of the year. For those who are new to the show, and for those who are not new to the show, just a reminder: instead of doing 4 episodes a month like we used to, or 5, or once a week, we are a twice a month show, sometimes 3. That way, we have a little bit more time to, gather relevant information, more lead time for guests. Will we have months that we may go back to a semblance of the old show where we have 4? It's generally going to be toward themed months rather than the norm. But yeah, this is our first one back. Rod is not here. He has some personal things he had to get taken care of. Hope those get done. So back to me. Yeah, I went to Uruguay and I went to Argentina, and they were hot. Uruguay had an average temperature of about 85 for the 5 days we were there. And while we were in Buenos Aires, Argentina, it was 95, 96, 98, 99, and 102. And the day that we were leaving, the temperature dropped down to 70.
Which was your favorite place out of the two?
Uruguay.
How was that?
It's very quaint. People are so friendly. The beaches are diverse. Even within the whole stretch of the beach, you can go from water that's brownish because of the way that the tides blow stuff in, to where the water is green to sometimes it's blue. A lot of activity on the beach, all up and down. It's walkable if you find certain sections. It's sort of a straight line. If I didn't spend enough time there to really get the huge picture of the geographic layout. It is modern. It is not some country that's striving to try to catch up. But it's one of those cities that you can't really, or countries you can't take in until you spend some time there. A lot of expats go and relax and work. Connectivity is great. Food. If you are a fan of red meat, you won't be disappointed. I am not a huge connoisseur of eating steak, but I did have one, and it's probably one of the best cuts I've ever had in my life. And the prices are relatively inexpensive. The dollar against the Uruguay peso was good. It was, good transaction. I won't say things are cheap. It's according to what you buy between goods and services. Airport was decent. Uber to get around was good. Public transportation, caught the bus some places. Right, it was straight line. And that was it. It has some uniqueness about the country that made it the country. And then Argentina. Well, let me give you the story how this happened. Then we'll get into the show here. So we're on the way to the airport Christmas Eve. Our flight was scheduled to depart from Atlanta at 6 p.m., going straight to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And from Brazil, we would have had a 2-hour layover. Yeah, 2-hour layover. And then we would have flew from Brazil to Uruguay. Well, en route to the airport at approximately 2:32, we get a text just happened to look down from Delta. Hey, we're sorry to inform you your flight's been canceled.
Wow.
So my wife's panicking. I'm like, just calm down. I'm angry, but two people mad doesn't do anything, and you can't fight the ether. Get on a call, blah blah blah. Long story short, out of all the options, we had to choose an option quickly. So they get us on the global whatever customer satisfaction line, and they go, here's what we can do. Can you make a flight at 5 o'clock? I said, yeah, we're about 30 minutes from the airport. All right. This is what they had us do. I need for you to check in, fly from Atlanta to LaGuardia Airport, New York. The flight's at 5, lands at 7. I then need for you to figure out how to get from LaGuardia to JFK.
I've done that many times. Times.
Then had to get over to JFK.
Yeah.
And you have to be checked in by 9 o'clock. So, and then JFK will fly you into Sao Paulo, Brazil, where you will have a 5-hour layover, 5.5 hours, and then you catch the plane to Uruguay. We had no other option. They were like, you could travel tomorrow. I said, well, you don't give me any disposition of that flight. I don't know why it was canceled. No reason. It could be canceled tomorrow. And I'm really in a bad spot. So we take it on. We get there. We get checked in. The flight leaves on time. It lands 6 minutes early. So I know LaGuardia's airport at the back.
You're in the back of the plane, and everybody's taking their time to get off. So.
I don't know about the back of the plane. Edward Walton doesn't do that. So I literally, my wife and I was literally the fourth and fifth person to get off the plane. And so we get there, airport's empty. Great. But I started worrying, there's nobody here, minimum staff, people are flying, but it's empty. I was like, man, there's not going to be any baggage handlers. Our luggage got to the baggage claim, which I know is right next to the Uber pickup. So we got it. Told the Uber guy, wait a minute, do not leave. I tip you well. The baggage come on time. We grab it. We jump in. We're getting there. And before then, I called my son because my son lives in New Jersey. I said, hey, I need you to pick me up from LaGuardia and take me over to so-and-so. He lives in Waukegan. He's like, Dad, I'm skiing. I'm not home. He's up north somewhere skiing. I'm like, you're not my favorite son anyway. Bye, click. And so we get over there. We get into traffic, but we get through. We rush through. Luckily, we flew Delta One, so we got in. And the guy checked us in, and we told him the story, and he said, you guys barely made it. That's what you mean barely made it. It's 8:20. We have to check in before 9 because the flight's at 10. The flight still is boarding at 9 and departs at 10, or something like that. Boards at 10 and whatever. He said, no, this is an international flight. You have to be here an hour before you're boarding. You got here with 10 minutes to spare. He said, it would have been nothing I could do. So we got checked in. We go into the lounge for a little bit, relax. I get me the biggest legal pour of alcohol they could give me. Relax a little bit, calming the wife down. So I happen to look at the gate and I go, oh my God. So the gate is the furthest away from the lounge as you could possibly be and still be in the airport. But luckily, one of the Delta representatives recognized me. He said, I know you. You fly up here. You were here, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah.
I thought they recognized you from the show.
Maybe from the show. Who knows?
Maybe from the show,
And so she called and got one of those little golf carts. Had it waiting downstairs for us. It literally was a 6 or 7 minute more than that driving that car because that's in JFK. Now JFK was
Aren't you
busy.
used to being that in Atlanta? I mean, come on. You're coming from Atlanta. You know, you should know these things.
Well, I do. So we get there, we land, we get checked in, flights okay, we land 5.5 hours in Brazil. We're dressed warmly because it was cold. Atlanta, New York. On the plane, we land. We step off that plane, going up there. I said, "Oh my God, it's so hot." And so we run. We have a change of clothes. We do it, and we hang out, took a nap, do whatever else. It's Christmas now. Now it's the 25th.
Oh, right. So that's why everybody was.
And so we finally get to there. We get checked in. We go out, and then we just put everything behind us and had a good time.
You remind me of two things. One is that, do you remember the days when you couldn't actually go to an app and actually figure things out? You see all the people standing in line at the customer service when a flight was canceled. It's like you just walk over to the phone and make the call in and be able to get booked in sooner than everyone else standing in line. Like, why do people stand in line? That was
well, the app is unreliable these days and it's overwhelmed, and you got to do something.
I mean, I'm just saying that was before apps.
Before, yeah. I'm old enough to remember when you could walk up to a counter with cash and buy a ticket. Eastern Airlines, Continental Airlines.
I used to travel to New York every single week, on the Delta shuttle up to LaGuardia, take the water shuttle over to Wall Street, or I would take Amtrak. And Amtrak back in those days, you used to get your ticket and you could run and jump on the train while it was moving. It was great.
Yeah,
but so one of the things I learned about doing international travel is if where you're going is hot, dress for cold, and vice versa. Because everywhere that's hot, they know how to do air conditioning really well. Everywhere that's cold, they know how to do heat really well. So if you don't dress the opposite, you're just going to be very uncomfortable.
You made a good point. Not in the travel, but in Buenos Aires, every place was freezing. You would go from roasting outside to go in there to I was trembling. I was like, it is freezing in here. And the people's like, we have to keep it cold. If it gets hot, we can't get in front of it. You'll never cool it off. Right. Luckily, my wife speaks a sufficient amount of Spanish and Portuguese. I don't assume you will not. But technology, phones, earbuds, speak, translate to your ear, and just show AI of your choice. And they saw it was great. There is no need to struggle with any language in the world. If you got one of these supercomputers, that's all you need. Inflation down there is pretty bad. Once again, if you're a red meat eater, steaks, my wife had lamb in Uruguay. I didn't get a piece, and I'm mad I didn't find any lamb down there. She said it was the best lamb she's ever had. And then we ate pretty good, slept a lot, walked around. We did a lot of walking. We averaged about 7 miles a day walking. So we mapped it out. Their Congress, their Capitol buildings are beautiful.
Hopefully she's the one that gave directions and didn't follow what you were saying.
I am better at directions the second time around. First time going somewhere, I'm not. After that, I don't need any more directions. By the time I leave, I know the city. I can tell you which street to turn down. And plus, I scout.
It's been a long time since we brought up the race.
The what?
The race.
Oh, the race.
Where you made the wrong turn in the race.
Oh, yeah. Instead of running 13 miles, I ran like 18 miles. But the second time around, I'm pretty good. And then in the morning was the only time that I could sort of run. I would get up and run the city. So I would go out a mile and then just start doing squares back in. So now I realize how the streets go. Be careful how you walk in Argentina. You will be run over. But overall, we had a good time. We got back home safe.
Now you're back to work.
We're back to work. I'm restored. So I'm back to work. So what's in store for the podcast? What we have going on? You do anything interesting this week with work since you've been back?
I got to tell you, I'm all AI or Azure Foundry AI, whatever it's called these days. So all about AI devs these days.
Yeah, I am finding myself gravitating toward that of a sort, especially now that I'm starting to be pulled into conversations. I'm not resisting, even though it's not the core responsibilities. But I found myself listening to your advice that I'm really so a lot of things to the individuals that listen to the show. Myself, Frank, and Rod are going to pivot the show a little bit. That we're going to have a hyper focus on all things around securing artificial intelligence, as agnostic of the proprietor of that technology. So we want to talk about what does it take to protect AI. Then you'll probably see the show pivot to some people's approach. But overall, if you look at some of the things that we'll put, we sort of modified the name to give it a little bit of sense of what we're going to be doing for the next foreseeable future. We'll still be, security, Microsoft, and all other things, but we want to be the AI Security Insights podcast, because I'm seeing a growing need of being able to secure artificial intelligence regardless of where you are consuming it. From a consumer standpoint, whether you're in a SaaS application, you put in prompts, to the back end facilitation of it, whether you're a proprietor of models that you're building or you're using someone else's model to build solution. The securing of the product is unanimous across all of it. So we're going to be looking at detection of AI threats, protection against AI threats, monitoring of shadow AI, remediation actions around of that. One thing that I haven't heard, and you're more ingrained into this than I am, so I'm looking at the things that I haven't heard a lot. One thing I haven't heard about AI is how people are incorporating BC and DR. What is your business continuity and disaster recovery if your AI model is compromised or endangered, or something affects the integrity of that particular operational model that you're using, right? It could be anything from your back end system. So how are you handling business continuity that if you're using Foundry and Microsoft has an outage? What is your disaster recovery plan for these models to be able to do this? And that's just the operational shared model.
Well, I can help you out there, but
okay. We're going to talk about all those things. We're going to bring guests on to talk about these things. We're going to bring different companies. It's always going to be some big representing from the big boys, but I also want to try to, see if we can find some individuals that represent startups that are having unique approaches to be able to do these things. One thing I'm learning is that find another way to understand how artificial intelligence is going to change it. And so I look at it from a finance position. We're so near it about talking about OpenAI and Google and Microsoft. But what I'm seeing from financial individuals, especially those who look at global macroeconomics that you've been my tutor in since I've met you, is that these cheaper models, whether they be fictional or reality, that are coming from other regions, China, wherever else, you're starting to see startups adopt those models because they are cheaper to run. And whether it's reality or not, the compute requirements around the big player out of Taiwan, people are trying to say, I don't want to put my eggs in that basket. One of the things I'm hyper focused on, I'm loving Google's TPUs, their tensor processing units. I remember when that guy left and started that company, I'm like, he's leaving Google to go start a poor man's Intel. Google just acquired them because they wanted the TPU technology to be able to do it. And so I think that also Apple is going to get into the mix, right? Very specific that you get their chips, right? So I'm going to soft short NVIDIA in the next 2 years, all right? Because I think that people are going to start realizing the risk of putting in something that has all this circular reliance across other big boys. So I'm looking at it from an economic standpoint. And then the startups of those I want to see. So I feel really good about this new learning journey I'm on. Now, with that being said, I have not done my homework that you told me to do, but I have all the stuff ready to go. I just haven't had time. So that's what it is.
You got your Mac?
I didn't buy that Mac. Thanks, Frank. Instead of me going out paying $6,000 for this super shared silicone backplane that Mac shares the memory with the GPU, I actually had a device that you had me buy 2 years ago when I did the forensics.
Well, I didn't have you buy it. But
yeah, because it was a very virtual machine heavy course. that when you do the reconnaissance, you had to run all these virtual machines, right? You had to have a Swift machine, some VMs, some victims. I want to run Velociraptor in a separate thing, and a bunch of stuff. Come to find out, that machine was a gaming machine, and it had 2 GPUs. It had a whatever AMD card is, RIZR, maybe, I can't remember. And it also had an NVIDIA card, one that's maybe one generation behind. It had 8 gigabytes, if not more, of RAM. And so I have the machine, but what I did was I cleaned it up. I really said, I got it, it's Windows. So I said, let me put the most basic deployment of Windows 11 that I could and strip everything out just for performance. And then I went back and made sure I put all the update AMD drivers and all the stuff that came with it, with none of that bloatware. The machine is blazingly fast. And then it came back default, so I wasn't really sure on how to configure it for optimal performance to be able to run models locally. So I ran AI and said, here are the specs of this card. If I am going to run this model locally, give me the optimal configuration for this using the NVIDIA card configuration. It did it. It ran through and said, you need to do these. So I started looking at things like, so what does TOP stand for? And what is cups and all these things about how they process it. And so now I'm understanding not only the hardware, how it uses it, but how it interacts with that. And so now I'm going through it. I'm trying to get my foundation before I just start installing stuff on it. But the machine also came with dual 2 terabyte SSD drives in it. I didn't know it. I didn't see it until I reformatted it. And then I did that.
Sounds like you got a really good crypto mining machine here. What's the deal?
And it's a laptop. I paid, when I went back and found the receipt, I paid $2,200 for it. It has 100, I think it had 128 gig of RAM in it. So it's a fast machine, blazingly fast. And so,
what's funny is that, I still, because I'm so old, instead of actually, so my problem is that I always think virtual machines instead of, hey, I can just spin up a container and do what I need to do and then spin it down, which is a lot less memory impact on the machine. So, that's the thing, is that I definitely have downgraded the memory requirements, the machine requirements, but now I'm definitely looking at how much memory is the GPU has, because that's key now for my next machine.
Yeah, you're right. And then I'm spending a little bit more time understanding the hardware, because I want to understand why the world is so crazy over these chips that can do fractional computations. And so I went through all my laptops, and a lot of them have Intel, Radeon, and one machine I have downstairs is sort of old, but its card shares a memory backplane, and it said the GPU had 15 gig. I said, that can't be right. It has to be a shared, memory backplane, or whatever Apple calls their specialized way that they do their silicon, their shared silicon, right? And that's what it looks like. But it doesn't seem to be that it. If you're old enough, remember, your swap file on Windows, it doesn't like it's swapping. So I can't tell this machine, and it's a gaming machine. Almost every laptop I own, except for these Surfaces, are gaming machines. So good luck. I'm going to do it next week. I'm learning. But let's get to a couple of things, man, on security. With that being said, I was with a customer today, and now that Microsoft has announced that if you have an E5, certain number of E5 subscribed users, I think per 1,000, you get 400 SCUs, which are secure compute units, which are the operational currency for Security Copilot. So when you do operational tasks via Security Copilot, they burn SCUs. So for every 1,000 users you get 400 SCUs a month, up to 10,000 users times 400, whatever that number may be. Shout out to James Key, who was on the show a few weeks ago, program manager for Security Copilot for partners at Microsoft. I was showing the customer that securitystore.microsoft.com lists all the partners that have submitted valid agents for the store. I actually went through it. They're very interesting. There are a couple of there's one company that has, if not double, 3 times as many agents as everybody in there. It's Gongwook or something like that. We'll put it in the show notes. But the usual suspects are there: Blue Voyant, Tanium, Performante, AdaQuest, Open Systems, a few others. They were there. So looking at that, and then I wanted to show something, and I'll see if I can save it for the next show, that I have access to a demo lab that big shout out to Alistar. I had to talk about Agent 365 and the security aspects of it. So in this lab that I have, I got to figure out how to be able to share it on the show. It's on my work laptop. It's fully formed. So there are at least 400 or 500 agents in this demo. And you can see in Agent 365 which ones are Foundry, which ones were built by Security Copilot and everything else and what they do. And it also lists, I didn't know this, the potential security risk of it. Like this is vulnerable to sideloading or injection or breakout. And I like this demo because it gives an explanation as you navigate through the Defender portal, or if you're using security.microsoft.com in the Defender portal and you click on assets, you see agents. But if you're in admin.microsoft.com, Agent 365 management is in there too, and you can see it. So it's very interesting today. That made me go down a rabbit hole today. That I'm really going to play with it. And I have a very good slide deck. I think it's public facing. I'll get it to you. Maybe if I could share it out to our listeners, that gives a really good breakdown of how Agent 365 is like your linchpin for monitoring and securing, and how it interacts with Defender and Entra to be able to do it. An interesting question that I got that I think I posed to you when you and I talked. I had a customer that says, how do I go about defending distributed AI processing? Meaning they are getting ready to do a huge endpoint technology refresh. And one of their considerations is only buying machines that have NPUs in them. And what they want to do is offset some of the centralized AI computational requirements away from maybe Azure and Foundry to say, hey, you can run these models localized. And I don't know what the synchron mechanism is to be able to do it. But how do you protect someone from not loading a rogue model and now having access to it? So admittedly, I said, this is a little bit over my head, Mr. Customer. You need to get an Azure AI architect, but it made me go down the road of trying to understand it. And lo and behold, I saw an article today that talks about that. It was in one of the Microsoft digital things. They says, hey, these applications are being built for distributed compute and processing on here, but it didn't necessarily say that Microsoft Defender for Endpoint was the enforcement mechanism to make sure that didn't happen. I think it was more along the line of what you suggested, Intune, that you're looking at. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to read some more upon it, and then I'm going to practice with it. That was
you got to do your homework. If you do your homework, you'll have a greater understanding.
I'm gonna do my homework and be able to do it. Other than that, man, it was some good stuff. I did some Sentinel stuff. So a couple of things. If we pivot away from AI, even though we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Hold on. Let's see what Andrew says. Andrew says, worth looking at a Dell refurbish or e-buy for older hardware, then add what you can afford to boost the spec, etc. Helped a few people I work with to run a lab setup for that. I agree with you, Andrew. That's a viable way to go, but you're going to hit something called a bloodline limit, meaning that if you get an older machine from there, the backplane is going to be your limit, right? When you have the individual components more powerful than the ability to transmit data across the backplane. Now, if you get a refurbished gaming machine, that's fine. And you can't. I saw some odd software too that it had to be.
What are you using it for? Is the real question.
Who, me?
No.
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, put it in there, Andrew. What do you use for truth? Though I'm often on the budget. Yeah, that's true, Andrew. The budget thing always comes back. Yeah, that was a good question. If you want to throw it in there, Andrew, and Frank asked what you're using it for. Yeah, it's here's an interesting exercise. Check this out. In your model of choice, consumer, meaning you're putting a prompt in, Grok, Claude, Copilot, whatever. Make a prompt and do F12 in the browser and watch the developer. You'll be surprised what you will see. When I did that, what made me really open my eyes, I did it while trying to run Comet, Perplexity's browser. What Perplexity does in its browser is totally different from the way a traditional browser. And really, either you or somebody, Rod, or maybe it was Rick Holtz, the browser is actually not doing anything inside the model request and subsequent response to it. The browser is not the interaction to the backend RAG. That's the simplistic way of the way that it's interacting in the back. And when you hit F12, you'll see it. So I went and found, I said, let me go find a foundational how does AI work book. And then I started going through it. And I'm like, you have to understand what happens when you do RAG, when you do L&M, because it's looking at a vector database when it comes out with it. So you start to see these things. And it opened up my eyes to some interesting attack vectors. And I'm like, oh, that gives
yeah, we're going to be getting into that. Like I said, do your homework first, and then we'll be able to dig much deeper into that for there.
Yeah. So what else did I work on? Oh yeah, let's talk about a little bit some stuff that we did the show. There's some interesting training that's coming up, and I'll definitely put it on the show in the show notes. I'll get it published tomorrow. January 27th, Microsoft is putting on some technical briefs and security events to protect data with Purview. Title 1 is Secure Your Data for AI with Microsoft Purview. That's going to be Tuesday, January 27th. I'll put it in the show notes. Learn how you protect your organization's rapidly increasing data against costly security incidents in the era of AI with Purview. And then on January 28th, strengthen your security posture with advanced identity solutions, Entra Suite, Entra ID governance. February 4th, a dive into a simulation of Microsoft 365 Defender and Microsoft Sentinel. Participate in an incident response investigation of a real-world security breach simulation. Participate in an incident investigation of a real-world security breach simulation. It's like, come see a simulated fake show. I'll put it in the show notes tomorrow when I do it, and register for them. They're free. It's worth taking a look. I generally register for these even if I can't make it. That way, when the show is over, you get the web link to go back and watch it later. Because if you don't do it, you can't go back and find it later, right? Did that. Another thing, one of the old hits at Microsoft, OFAR, one of the principles of all things Sentinel. He put something on LinkedIn that now his solution can show you all the way from the content hub to your Sentinel deployment, how those connectors send data all the way to the table level inside Data Lake. So we are going to have an expert that's going to come on the show, Stefano. He's one of the more sharp guys around Data Lake and what real world use cases are, and how this content hub helps you make decisions about what goes into the analytics workspace and what you should put into the data lake, right? So that's going to be super interesting too. And what else did I bring?
I got a question for you. Can you really decide, or is it just done by a retention period?
Ask that question again.
Can you really decide what goes into the data lake when you're basically is done by the retention period more than anything else?
You can, because now you're able to go in and write DCRs for the data lake. So I can group the data to say, I only want these tables to go into the data lake. So yes, you can. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you said that. Hold on one second here. 1 second. Thought I had it. I call myself forwarding the link. 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll grab it. It was a LinkedIn post. I generally just forward the LinkedIn post over and do it, but I don't have it readily available. But I'll make sure I get it in here. And the other thing, one last thing, and let you talk here for a second. I want to hear what you've been doing other than making all of these tests harder. Last thing, I'll put it in. This right here is driving compliance with Microsoft Sentinel CMMC 2.0 solution. So they updated the data connector, it looks like. Actually, StreamYard doesn't allow you to embed a link that way. So let me see if I can copy. Let me see here. Copy hyperlink and see if it takes it. This is going to be extremely long, but to our listeners, there's a tech community blog that went out the 22nd of December. We didn't have a show, but if you want to be able to, if you're working in, agency that has CMMC requirements, I think Department of Energy, DOD, if you're a contractor, 2.0, you're doing something that may have not sovereign cloud, but just GCC. That's interesting to do. I want to find that one about the table stuff though. It's actually not bad. Really, Sentinel's not that complicated. It's just footwork. When you talked about the data piece, you just have to decide what do you need to be able to do your security operations, right? And that's the stuff that you put in the analytics, right? Or what they call the primary log analytics workspace. And then everything else that may be supplemental or augmentative logs go into the data lake. Now the data lake is madly cheap if you leave it alone. The minute you start running KQL jobs, search jobs against it, stand by. You better be very good about how you run these jobs because it's about the amount of data that is searched within a certain amount of time period is what's going to be your cost. So if you sit here and say you write a bad KQL job and you want to search across this timeline, you need to understand between that timeline how much data is in Monday to Friday. Monday to Friday could be no data because that particular log source didn't put much of anything. Monday to Friday could be 400 terabytes and you're going to pay for it and you're going to get a bill. What they are putting in there is a predictor that would tell you before you run this query, hypothetically, this is going to cost you this amount of money. Now, I've not done it yet, but I've watched a bunch of individuals, MVPs, folks who are overachievers on LinkedIn say, hey, these are the things that you do. So you gotta do that. Now, in my lab, I'm trying to deploy data lake, but I blew away my entire Sentinel environment. I've had that Sentinel environment up and running 5 years and lots of real data from all over the world. I could not enable data lake. Why? Because I provision it in the East and there's no capacity in the East at all. Customers are not happy. They want to provision it and they have data governance and residency that they have to adhere to. And you're telling me that you need to enable data lake in a region that has it available. But what can't you do? You cannot migrate or transition the log analytics workspace for Sentinel into another region. It cannot be done. And they have an Azure migration, resource migration feature in Azure. It will migrate 70% of all your Azure stuff. But one of the big things it cannot do, it cannot move Sentinel. And that's the way the metadata and the artifacts are embedded into that log analytics workspace. You have to stand up a net new log analytics workspace.
That makes sense.
It's not worth the squeeze. So what you can do is stand up another log analytics workspace. Switch your XDR data over because in the multi-workspace feature, you can only have one primary workspace for XDR data. Start pumping that data there, maintain the other one in your region, and then do cross-workspace queries. Now, there's some limitations. One of them is going to be speed. So you got to be very efficient with it and be able to correlate the data. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it, right? So data lake is very much friendly to greenfield. But if you got an established Sentinel environment, you need to really think before I go to data lake, what is my process of net new ingestion? And XDR is going to be the primary one to do that. You can also do it a different way. You can do it opposite. You can leave your legacy or your environment, create another workspace in the place that supports it, and then send your non-critical logs to that workspace. But now I'm not sure if you do that, is there an egress and egress charge? I'm designing that for a customer out of London right now. I'm told them I think better if you fly me to London. I think better when I'm local. Yeah. So Andrew said, yeah, we heard the cost predictor sounds very useful. That's always scares the heck out of me. Billing. Yeah. I've yet to see a very effective calc thing. I suggested something a long time ago. You build a solution that's a shim in front of the log analytics workspace and the log collection. But that was really me based on self and syslog collection. Now everything's codeless connector for the most part over syslog, whatever it may be. So you don't have anything that can predict the cost before it can go in, right? You really just, it's just ones and zeros. People get the people together, ask them how much data they're bringing in, why they're doing it, and then you figure out the cost. The good part about it, every 31 days you can adjust. If you make a bad mistake, can it be so much that it'll get you in trouble, Frank? Using what did you run your American Express bill up one time to?
It was like Defender for IoT.
Yeah, and Rod did it with Foundry. Mistakenly left it on. Now he's disputing the bill. So don't.
Listen, the thing is this, is that Microsoft's, I was willing to pay for the first month, but when I got charged again, and I had all the support tickets saying everything's taken care of, you won't get charged, all that stuff, that I'm like, what? There was no way for me to turn off Defender for IoT at the time. And I would just constantly get billed every single month. So I had no choice but to dispute it because I had no way of turning it off.
Yeah, I think people, as we get more sophisticated, we become less ingenious about how we do it. When we had less tools at our disposal, we were better. You and I have been doing this for 20 plus years. You figured out a way to make it work. Think about all the things. Sentinel's still an Azure operational macro or microservice. Whichever one it is, but it runs in Azure. So when you're thinking about pricing and billing, stop thinking about Sentinel. Go to the subscription and put cost alerting in. I have high level watermarks across all my stuff. When you get to this amount of money, I get an email, an alert. When you get to this amount of money, you can get very granular and set all the Azure budgets and cost analysis. So when you're setting these things up, make it part of your operational procedure to have.
I think they just made a change on some of the subscription stuff too, on how you manage that. More efficient.
Yeah, it can be done. It's just the security people don't talk to the cloud admins, and the cloud architects and admin don't talk to the security people. I'm running into that now with a customer. They don't run the cloud. They just have a service run in the cloud. So that's pretty good. What else have I broken? Nothing on MDE. Nothing on MDO. There are some new announcements coming out from Microsoft Defender for Identity I need to come up with. And Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps is getting a facelift and some more capability coming into it. I didn't drill down into it, but they made a big deal out of it where they have a separate webinar for us. I need to go probably take a look at that. That's all, man. Really getting back into it. Still people are not fully back yet. Next week, everybody will be back. Because we still have some school systems here that not all of them started on Monday. Some started on Monday, some started on Tuesday. Private schools here in Georgia, some of them in Atlanta, they started on Wednesday. So now everybody's back now. And so we'll see how that goes. Frank, well, I've been yik-yakking. What have you been doing?
Well, like I said, I've just been dealing with the AI world and getting ready for some training classes around Foundry, and that's about it. So
yeah,
looking at my summer vacations, that's it.
Summer vacations?
Got to book it now.
it's still winter.
People need to schedule their time off so they don't, they first come, first serve on their holiday, time off for their summer vacations. So
Okay.
if someone else takes the time slot, then they, or the days, then they can't take it. So it's
Yeah.
coordinated now with all the family members and their schedules and all that stuff. So that's because I'm the social coordinator for the family vacations. So.
Well, you're the one that's enamored with going on cruises, so it's probably another cruise involved.
There's one cruise involved, yes.
I don't know if I'm gonna take one this year. We'll see.
Another scuba diving trip. I'm trying to merge the cruise with the scuba diving, but that's kind of actually very hard to do. So.
Yeah, you told me how much fun you had on the cruise last year. You and your dad and all that. That was Carnival, right?
No, it's Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean, that's right. That's one my wife likes. We've done them all, I think. One time, another Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Virgin Voyages. My best friend used to be for a brief time, the deputy CISO at Carnival years ago, and he didn't stay because they wanted him to move to Orlando. He's like, man, I'm not moving to Orlando, so he didn't stay. But he gave me some stories, about the world of IT on cruise ships. That's interesting, very interesting. What else am I going to be doing today?
You're going to start your homework because in 2 weeks you're going to come back and tell everyone what you've learned while doing your homework.
But what if I didn't learn anything?
Do you want to make a bet there? We can start a predictions market to see if Edward actually learned something when he does the homework.
Casio, is that Casio a Pioneer or something like that? Prediction markets. Yeah, that's interesting. It's gambling. It's also right for insider trading. It really is, because you're predicting the behavior or the outcome of something. How do you prevent the person that's central to the outcome? And what are the penalties? What if I say that, this event is, we're going to invade Venezuela, and that happens, but I was the person that sort of had ends. I throw 10 million that's actually going to happen during this daytime, right? Even if you saw it as blatantly that you have to have inside information there, what is the repercussion of that? Nothing, right?
All right. Well, listen, we'll see if you learn anything, if it changes the way you look at things.
Yeah, I like learning. I'll get at it, especially if Frank thinks I can't do it. And what else? I renewed all my.
No. I know you can do this. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn it correctly. Maybe I'm overthinking it, because maybe I'm thinking there's some particular thing that you want me to go aha and then come back. But I think I'm just going to take the learning journey and just say, okay, this builds my base about what I think I want to do in my career for the next few years, and see how this thing operates. What I have to do is sort of take this brain out, which is a consumer brain, which is prompt engineering, and then put in another brain that says I'm on the back end here. Understand how do I make that interface that is Claude, that's all that. How does this work, right? Understanding the models. The problem with it is that it's not my day job, so it's hard for me to sort of flip my head when I've been talking. What was I talking about all day? Defender for Cloud. So I was talking CSPM and CNAP all day. And then I got to go flip it.
But you could do that, but then you could actually have fun and do this. Come on.
Your definition of fun is much different from Edward's definition.
You don't even have to think about that. You can just go into a meeting and you don't even have to think when you're replying to those questions. Come on, you've been doing this for such a long time.
No, yeah, I've had to respond to one, because be very careful if you're using Defender for AI against Foundry. You think you got a bill. I'll leave it at that. Be very careful when you enable these things. They're very expensive, right? And expense is relative. Yeah, you're right. And then what else I got going on as we get ready to do the show? A little bit of updates. We'll get guests coming up. We're going to have a couple of guests. I'm going to turn my back to it, which you're not supposed to do in live. We're going to get a partner on from Value Mail. They do email sanitation outbound, not inbound. Chris Seltzer wants to come back on. He did an outstanding Sentinel MCP server demo up in Vancouver, and it was good. I bumped into him in New York. He was like, "How did you hear about it?" I said, "If it's good, it gets around. I want to see it." He agreed to come on the show. He's been on the show twice. He's one of Brody's buddies. Robert Disney, remember him? The programmer, the big brain AI security guy. Well, he left Microsoft and started his own AI security consulting company.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so he wants to come on. Smart dude, really smart. And Stefano Fedinato, which is he's a big time technical guy at Microsoft around all things our Defender stack and Sentinel. I'm seeing a lot of people go out and write a lot of these MCP server, capabilities and using it and all this other stuff. A lot around automation, building these things. And it sort of reminds me of a particular time within the Sentinel maturation, where the big thing was writing notebooks and writing workbooks that you could take advantage of. And there was one more thing that was really big that a lot of people wanted to show their technical prowess by writing these super complicated KQL queries. I haven't written a KQL query from scratch in a year. With my VS Code repository and then just AI, I mean, they just do it, right? And they get it very close, right? So now use case development, it seems to be more important than you being able to understand KQL from scratch, so but you do need KQL skills, because most of the KQL queries that are returned from AI, they're not optimized worth a damn. They're horrible. And you really got to optimize them if you got multi workspaces, or you're going to time out. And if you run a bad KQL job against Sentinel Data Lake, you better have an American Express Black Card or a lot of credits, because you're going to get it. So you got that's a reason to have at least a solid foundation around what is good KQL and what is bad KQL, because not all KQL is created equal. Let me ask a question to you. You came from a developer background of a sort. Don't count Python. What is the next prevailing language to come out as far as developers? What is the next thing? Python seems to be the thing. That's it. What are developers coding in these days? What is it? Ruby? Is it Go?
You know what I gotta say? Doesn't really matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because basically when it comes out, it's like, I know what I want to have done. Languages are languages. It's no big deal. The syntax, whatever. I'm just going to have most of it generated. I'm going to go make changes to it and be on my way. So, the language doesn't really matter to me anymore. What it is,
unless you're writing in Q# for quantum.
Yeah, I mean, so there are languages where you have to change the way that you think about things, but that mental switch, if you're going to write assembly language, stuff like that, you have to change. But for most of what I do, the language doesn't matter. If it's Python, if it's C#, if it's whatever, it doesn't really matter.
I tell you, I like looking at practical impacts of how KQL doesn't, when people talk, it's always going to make you so productive, and then some people. So I was talking to someone, and he used an old cliche that you heard. People were saying AI is not going to take your job. People that know AI or use AI are going to take your job. I said, well, let's flip it a little bit. AI is not here to take your job. You could give your job to AI by not using it. And 2 years ago, we talked about it, and it was the new shiny, and it still has a little bit of gloss on it for the immediate future. But now we're starting to see the financial hard questions. The bean counters will go, where's my ROI? And then you're going to see, I think I said this one of the presentations I did, TCO. And someone said, oh yeah, total cost of ownership. And I said, yeah, but I said, let me change that a little bit. How about we go total cost of commitment? Meaning if you buy into a single platform, you're committed. And what is that cost going to be to you if you need to pivot where it doesn't meet what you need to do? So one of the things I saw, I was reading, and I don't think I've heard it anywhere, but it's interesting when I saw it. And I was like, wow, I didn't think about that. Remember, a lot of these legacy systems, particularly hospitals, banks, and some other nuances, there were no more COBOL people. AI does COBOL very well. You don't need to go bring them out of retirement. You can go run AI against these legacy systems, and then they can come in and help you with the transition off of them. Everything from mainframe, all this stuff, right? It doesn't get tired. It can just keep reiterating until it gets it right, right? And that's one of the big things that these legacy languages, these old interfaces and stuff like that, it does it well, right? Because it doesn't second guess itself. It's either going to give you right or give it wrong. It doesn't care, right? So that's I like it that way, right? So that's some of the nuances about it. I think that's it. We will have Women in Cyber Month in March. We're going to start lining up guests. We may have some repeats, but we definitely want to get some fresh blood. We're going to have Partner Month, which will probably go back to April. We're going to put a spin on it. Only partners that have a security copilot agent in the security-store.microsoft.com, or who've written agents that are being sold and employed. We want them to come in. May will be tech heavy month. All guests will be required to do a demo. Let me see it in action. June, I'm not sure what we do in June, but we'll figure it out. And then I think probably one of the months, me, you, Rod, whomever else we have to come on and do a demo. Later in the year, let's show me something. Let's see which. Maybe I show the MCP server stuff. I
know what you'll be showing in 2 weeks, so that's fine.
Yeah, we'll do that.
If you don't give yourself a deadline, like taking a test, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah, well, I guess I got time since I couldn't take that SANS course because my voucher expired.
Come on. It's a simple little task.
Yeah, I called SANS. I should have pushed the issue. I was like, the voucher was paid for. You telling me you're not going to honor the voucher? I should make a stink about it. But I let them live. Let them go about their business. Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for coming on the show. We will get back to the regular rhythm. We'll start having guests on, so you don't have to hear me and Frank babble on about how the good old days were. I want to see what the new good old days look like.
Our new channel about travel tips.
Travel tips. Yeah.
Yeah, our travel channel.
We should do that, right? And that's all. So our next show is going to be, what's the date? The 8th. So our next show is going to be, when is our next show, Frank?
I think it's the 15th.
22nd?
22nd.
Yep. I will, actually, maybe you and Rod, I think I have to go do a Sentinel and something compete thing in Texas. Oh, I will be in Seattle at the Partner Airlift. So Microsoft Security Partner Airlift in Redmond at the end of the month, the 26th through the 30th. I'll be there. Invite only for partners. I'm definitely going to be fixated on the partners who have a go-to-market and huge, AI just usage, presence, and then security. So I'm going to make my rounds. James Key will be there, so I'll hang with him. And if we may do a show, so I can do a show there where I can just sit down and we just grab partners.
We can just change the week,
Yeah, we can just change. Time is an artificial construct, right? And that's it. So Matt Sosman, Microsoft partners. Yeah, I know Matt. Matt doesn't return my phone calls. Matt's on my list. So I'll see Mr. Sosman, grab him by the ear. And do
He's
it.
been doing the security stuff, the Microsoft security stuff for about 50 years now. He must be 93, isn't he?
No, I don't know if he's that old. He's younger than me, man. If he's 93, I'm 150. So we'll see. Yeah, I'll give him a nudge. Yeah, Andrew, give him a nudge. Say, hey man, Ed's bad mouthing you in the show saying you don't return his phone calls. So everyone, thanks for coming on to the show. we'll get the show notes posted. It'll be one of our more robust things with all the show notes, all the links and everything. I got a lot to go back and backfill, some useful stuff that you can go to. Keep an eye on the training. And I'm going to have fun. I think this AI thing is going to be different. And I want to find a different way to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it what everybody's talking about it. I want to see a different way. Think about if you could run AI. I haven't heard this either. Put this in your back pocket, Frank. Homework for you. How do you do AI on quantum computing? Or is AI the natural language for quantum computing? I wonder, right? I'm on the quantum computing committee here at Microsoft.
You know, I was going to be doing a training about that tomorrow. No, I'm kidding.
Are you?
No,
Oh.
I'm kidding.
All right. All search redone. SC100, 200, 300. I didn't have the 4. All my search are redone. I missed one. The AZ104 expired on me. I'm not taking it again. I forgot. I'm not doing it again. I'm not. I'm going to grab a couple of AI certifications. I think I already have the AI 900. I'm going to go through all the Foundry stuff too, and a couple other things. And then I got a free Databricks training course. I don't know how I did it. I won some contest. They gave me a free Databricks training course and a free subscription or something. What's that? I don't know what it is, but everyone have a good one. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks unless we decide to do it earlier. All right. Have a good one.